So sometimes you don't know how strong until strong, or strength, as the case may be, is the only option that you have. And strength is for times like this, particularly when you're cheated by the cheaters. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. Hi guys.
So,
Jeffrey, I knew Jeffrey would not be excited this morning.
Yeah, I shouldn't be excited.
but Jeffrey, bring it on, bring it on.
Of course, for the show, I'll be excited. I love to do the show. But as a patriotic Nigerian, I should not be excited. Who gets excited when you lose a match? A crucial match. This is what I was telling Wale yesterday. We always permit it. By the way, good morning. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. I'm sorry, but I'm that patriotic.
It's okay. This is what I was telling you yesterday as well. Do not let football determine whether or not you're happy. You know, I see football as a movie, okay?
Yeah.
I can watch it back. I can choose not to watch it. But welcome to Lagos. This is the Morning Brief. I am Kayode Okikilo. How do you feel after yesterday's match?
Kayode is very good at masking his emotions.
I'm not masking it. I promise you.
And I totally embrace your example, Kayode.
Bukola, I've gone through my fair share of heartbreaks when it comes to football. So at some point, Jeffrey, I sat myself down and I said, you cannot go on like this. It was an intervention. It was me, myself, and I. You know,
an inner intervention.
And I said, we cannot go on like this. I mean, you lose a match and you will not eat. You lose. No, come on. So I told myself, it ends today. So most times, what I do with football is I see it as a movie. I see it as scripted. Whether you watch or not, it's still going to end that way. You're not on the field. So why are you? So, gentlemen and ladies, that is me. I am not masking anything. I am happy.
Well, the truth is that I had my worst experience in 1994.
Right.
When Nigeria made it to the World Cup, and the impressive performance of those patriotic Super Eagles players who are today still our vets, as far as this game is concerned, got all of us. Literally, I felt like the energy with which we came to that World Cup in 94, that's 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
We will win the World Cup. And if you go watch the match, nostalgia, you could feel that these boys came with a mission. Well, when I survived that as a teenager, I survived another one in 1996. At some point, it almost happened. But
okay, the Olympics.
Okay. Yes, you know, there was one, it almost happened. We were very nervous. Yeah. Eventually, we won the cup.
The dream team, right?
Yeah, the dream team. We eventually won with Kanu Wankwa and all of that. But for 1994, it was the peak for me where I advised myself. But that doesn't mean I should not be patriotic. I understand where you're coming from when you're too emotionally invested. So there's a trick way to watch the match. You're watching between and out. But this one, I just felt like we have never lost to Benin Republic, for God's sake. Never in the history of our football have we ever lost to Benin Republic. And we're shouting here yesterday like, we should stop this permutation. What is going on? I don't even want to talk about Finidi George. What next?
You know, for me, when your eardrums are only beginning to open as far as football is concerned, you can only dream that the days of USA 94 or the dream team of the Olympics will return. So let's turn our attention to what we have for you. We're visiting or revisiting Rivers politics again, following a ruling by the State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt, affirming Martin Amewule and 26 other members of the State House of Assembly as members of the People's Democratic Party. This throws up more questions than answers in the wake of recent political events in the state. But more importantly, we seek to know what constitutes a defection if public declarations by the defectors do not.
Absolutely. But that's not all we have for you on the show. The journey to becoming a mother is seamless for some, while for others, it is long and arduous. And often, it is aided by choices that are mostly difficult to embrace, like surrogacy. So the increasing popularity of this option for waiting mothers compels us to peep into that space today with a view to understanding the legal provisions or the absence of regulations for this reproductive process. So it's a big one, guys.
Well, of course, we're also keeping close watch on all your reactions, the big stories, and some of the things you're commenting on, questions you're asking. We welcome all of them. Remember where to post this on X. And of course, on our WhatsApp number is going to come on your screen pretty soon. You send your messages as well as your videos, whatever it is that's happening in the polity. Let us know. Our responsibility is pretty simple: to amplify your voice. Guys?
Speaking of amplification, we'll also be cruising with Joe, as we promised you yesterday. Some man who is amplifying comedy and culture. It's an interesting mix, so we get to know how he does that so seamlessly.
So you didn't get to catch him yesterday, but you're going to catch him today on the show. So it's like a bring back, come back.
No, it's kind of a show up.
So it's
I like that.
Just show up.
Yeah, so it's worth the wait. Wait for it. We'll be right back to start off the show with the top stories for today. The morning brief is unfolding. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we begin from the nation's capital, where the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, has given the assurance that the report of the Tripartite Committee on the new minimum wage will be presented to the President for appropriate action. Mr. Akume said this when he received the committee's report in Abuja on Monday. A statement from the office of the SGF explains that the formal presentation of the report will be made to President Bola Tinubu when the leadership of organized labor, as well as representatives of government and organized private sector, return to the country. They are set to be currently in Geneva, Switzerland, for the ongoing International Labour Organization conference. And very quickly, let's head to the courts now. River State, to be precise, where the State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has affirmed Martin Amewule and 26 other members of the River State House of Assembly as members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The judgment given by Justice Okogbule Basam of the State High Court Division held that the claimants, Hyacinth Wam Amadi, Tonye Datoye, and 2 others had prayed the court to declare their seats vacant, having defected from the PDP to the APC. In his judgment, however, Basam ruled that the claimants failed to produce any concrete evidence proving the defendants had actually defected to the APC. He further held that the verbal comments, television ceremonies, and public declarations do not constitute membership, and that the failure of the claimants to produce membership cards, defection letters, and party register shows that they are still members of the PDP.
The case was about challenging the seat of the members of the State House of Assembly, led by the Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Martins Chike Amewule. The claimant has sought the relief of the court to declare their seats vacant. And of course, with what happened in court today, it's quite obvious they are unable to prove that indeed they have defected from PDP and has joined the APC. It's an issue of hard facts and of course the law. You don't just imagine defection and assume that it has occurred. It's something that must be predicated in law. And of course, you must be seen to have proved that. I'm sure that some of you or most of you are in court. The court clearly stated that Right Honorable Martins Chike Amewule remains the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, as well as other members are quiet and remain members of the State House of Assembly, and their laws, the laws that are passed are legitimate, and the state government is bound to obey the laws passed by these honorable members.
Meanwhile, the River State Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General, Mr. Dagogo Ibiri-Boroma, has refuted claims that a high court in Port Harcourt affirmed Martin Amewule and 26 others as members of the River State House of Assembly and the People's Democratic Party. At a press briefing in Port Harcourt, the senior advocate of Nigeria clarified that the suit did not seek to declare their seats vacant. He explained that the case was dismissed due to lack of locus standi and jurisdiction, as well as abuse of court process, which robbed the trial court of the jurisdiction to adjudicate on the matter.
There is the misleading news circulating in social media, print and electronic media, that Martin Amewule and 26 others are members of the People's Democratic Party and the Rivers State House of Assembly. As you all know, Martins Amehule and 26 others defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress on the 11th day of December 2023 and stated that much in affidavit evidence deposed to by Martins Amehule for himself and on behalf of 26 others in suit number FHC ABJ 1681 CS of the year 2023 before Honorable Justice Donatus Okorowo of the Federal High Court Abuja Division. That suit is still pending in court. By section 2723 of the Constitution of Federal Government as amended, it is only the Federal High Court that can determine whether Martins Amehule and 26 others are still members of the People's Democratic Party and also members of the Rivers State House of Assembly.
And to security matters now in Katsina State, to be precise, where at least 26 people have been killed and 2 others wounded in fresh attacks by bandits on Gidan Tofa and Dang Nakwabo communities in Kankara local government area of the state. The bandits and their numbers, armed with dangerous weapons, were said to have attacked the 2 villages yesterday, and that would be Sunday, June the 9th. During the attacks that lasted for hours, the bandits were said to have shot and killed 20 people, injured 2 others, and ambushed an armored personnel carrier attached to the police patrol team. Responding to the distress call, they killed 4 police officers and 2 members of the Katsina State Community Watch Corps. Spokesman of the Katsina State Police Command, ASP Abubakar Sadiq, explains in a statement that the command is working with all relevant stakeholders in the state to beef up security in the areas. And staying with security matters, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, is again assuring officers and men of the force of improved welfare aimed at enhancing policing duties in the country. Speaking in Abuja shortly before presenting checks of over 2.5 billion naira to families of deceased personnel, Mr. Egbetokun says the welfare of police personnel, living or dead, remains paramount to his administration. The IGP adds that he remains committed to providing enhanced welfare packages for all members of the police family, in addition to creating an environment where every policeman feels valued, protected, and well motivated for effective service to Nigeria. Meanwhile, the president has appointed retired Deputy Inspector General Hashimu Argungu as the chairman of the Police Service Commission. In a statement, the special advisor to the president on media, Mr. Ajuri Ngelale, explained that the president has also approved the appointment of Chief Onyemuche Namani as secretary and Deputy Inspector General Taiwo Lakano, retired, as member of the commission. The appointments are subject to confirmation by the Senate, even as other members of the PSC are to be appointed in due course. The president also approved the appointment of Mr. Mohammed Sheidu as the executive secretary of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund, MPTF, with immediate effect. And here in Lagos, governors of states in the southwest zone on Monday reaffirmed their support for the establishment of state police in the country, just as they condemned the agitation for the creation of Yoruba Nation. This was part of the resolutions that they reached at their meeting at the Lagos House, Alausa, Ikeja, where Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State was elected chairman of the forum. Presenting the communique on behalf of the forum, Governor Sanwo-Olu also expressed the forum's support for the ongoing negotiation for the new minimum wage.
The forum commends the relative peace we currently enjoy within our southwest region and notes the collaborative efforts of all security agencies, including Amotekun Corps, and we reaffirm our support for the creation of state police. On food security, the forum acknowledged the efforts of the federal government and decides that our various honorable commissioners for agric at all of our states should begin to meet and set up a working template which will encourage collaboration based on each state's comparative advantage in the agricultural value chain. The forum supports the efforts of the federal government, the Nigerian Governors Forum, and the organized private sector on their ongoing conversations with the Nigerian Labour Union. The forum believes that the outcome will reflect a true fiscal federalism that we all preach. The forum also encourages the federal government's effort on mineral resource exploitation. There should be a further collaboration between the federal government and states, especially in areas of granting of leases to various investors. The forum condemns in strong terms the group of people agitating for the Yoruba nation.
And outside our shores, the presidency in Malawi is reporting that an aircraft carrying the country's vice president, Mr. Saulos Chilima, and 9 others has gone missing. The Malawi Defense Force aircraft went off the radar after it left the capital, Lilongwe, on Monday morning. It added the plane was supposed to land at Mzuzu International Airport in the country's north just after 10 a.m. local time. In a speech late on Monday, President Lazarus Chakwera said a search and rescue operation was continuing. Mr. Chakwera earlier cancelled his flight to the Bahamas, which was scheduled for Monday evening. And here's a sad one. The Super Eagles, for the first time on Monday, were lost to Benin Republic in a scoreline that is 2-1, leaving Nigeria's World Cup qualification on the line. The Super Eagles came into the game needing a win after drawing South Africa some days back. While the game started on a good note for the Nigerians, they had to wait 25 minutes before taking the lead. Raphael Onyedika of Club Brugge coolly just inside the box, but unfazed, the Cheetahs of Benin, coached by former Nigerian Jaffa Genot-Raw, leveled proceedings in the 37th minute from Jode Deso after a defensive error from the Super Eagles. And many Nigerians are not happy after that loss to the Cheetahs of Benin Republic. But of course, Nigeria will recover from it. And I'm sure that forms much of the talking points that fill your minds right now. But we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, we'll be reviewing some of your reactions to the major talking points this morning. And Jeffrey joins me to do just that. Hello again, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Bukola, absolutely. So, major talking point. Let's begin from what people have been talking about from yesterday, which has to do with the House of Representatives, some members seeking a 6-year tenure for the president, rotation among zones, led by the representative from Idiato North and Idiato South constituency, Kenga Ogochinyere. And this is your reaction, so let's get straight to it. Omo Kogi says, rotation among zones still won't eradicate nepotism. A particular zone will come to power and focus on its region, reigns and repeats. The best solution is a regional system of referendum. The earlier, the better.
Well, all legislations must go to the president for assent, and it'll be interesting if this scales second reading and is eventually passed by both houses. But what
it's beyond that. It has to pass both houses, go through the houses of assembly. When it comes to adjustment to the constitution, it's a very tedious process.
Absolutely.
The president is the last port of call.
So it's that last port of call that I'm talking about. So what would be the reaction from the presidency? Because everyone is affected in this.
He's been an advocate of restructuring.
Type of amendment.
Absolutely.
Are you holding the presidency by the jugular, Jeffrey? But let's go to the next reaction. This one is from T.A. Omoroga, and they say a good one if the parameters are right, but there should be a clause for tenure that has bad statistics 3 years into their reign.
Okay.
I'm sure they're talking about development there.
Yep. So a cut-off first says, which one is 6 years? Why not 4? 4 years old, or may you just forget them, something like that. Let's go back to regional government, or 2 years for president, total of 4 years.
Okay, this one is from Valencia.
A lot of political scientists.
Quite a number of them. Let's go to this one from Valencia Cute, who says, is this really the best way to go when we have critical issues facing the nation. Why not tackle the issue of insecurity, economic hardship, unemployment, poverty, and hunger facing the land instead of addressing unnecessary issue that won't benefit or show that would not benefit the common masses? I believe that's what they're trying to say.
At the end of the day, people are beginning to get weary of some states. When I say states, country now, when they rethink democracy. Should we do parliamentary system? Should we do a hybrid? People are just looking at ways to just better society. So, hey, at the end of the day, it's a proposal. Whether it will follow through or pass through is a different kettle of fish. But let's go to another issue you've been talking about, and that is the face-off between Labour and federal government over the wage dispute. Federal government is saying we will do 2K, extra. let's add 2K extra to your 60,000. So the government versus Labour at the end of the day are in dispute over how much should it be. The governors have come to say even the 60,000 you talked about, we cannot pay. Well, let's see what Collins Opara is saying. These amounts are an insult to hard-working individuals trying to survive on Tinubu's economy. That's how you refer to it. They resume the strike on Tuesday, which is today. Today is the deadline, by the way. The government needs to stop playing games and offer a fair, livable wage immediately. This disrespect to the workers cannot continue.
The deadline ends midnight today, I believe.
Yep.
This next one is from Emre Owolabi, who says, please just make sure you don't get close to the national grid. Commence your strike in peace. 62,000 naira is low in this current economy. If the economy of the country is on a good side, 62,000 naira isn't bad. I believe that that's a big cause of concern for many Nigerians, particularly after the last strike when the national grid was shut and it was bad for the economy.
So there's a big argument between the people. There are three parts to this argument: the tripartite committee, private sector, federal government, and Labour. When the SGF came and said treasonable felony, offered the turning off the national grid is treasonable felony, and then Senate President says it's sabotage. Labour is saying, what is the biggest sabotage? Just to put off the national grid or the money the political class has been stealing from the system. So we are going to explore that conversation someday. What is really sabotage at the end of the day? Adeleke says 62,000 are offered by FG. Oh boy, I say it's satanic. However, the 250,000 demanded by NLC is on the high side given the available resources. Both sides should find a middle ground. Government should look beyond the minimum wage by providing subsidies in mass transportation and working on fiscal policies that will bring relief. In London, for instance, is making a comparison now. The maximum you can pay on transportation in a day is 5.25. That's 5 pints, 25 distance in respect of the number of trips. Government should look at those things that eat into workers' salaries.
Perhaps this would be a good time, to call on the political class to lead by example by cutting the cost of governance.
Exactly.
The figures came out at the beginning of the year when the budget was going in for appropriation, for deliberations for appropriation, and we saw how much was devoted to purchase of vehicles, how much was devoted for...
When Labour sees that, they don't want to hear anything else.
It would just be only right, in line with the spirit of accountability and equitable distribution of resources for the political class to lead by example.
All right, Bukola, let's go to the next one that has to do with this Rivers State, this Rivers issue, the never-ending drama. So yesterday, for context, the State High Court said that the 26 members who came to say they have defected, the president welcomed them, the members of the party in the state welcomed them, and said, as far as there is no document in the books of the APC saying these are new members, or they don't have some level of documentation, let me just use that word because documentation is in various level, they have not defected. So that is what the judge decided yesterday. The Attorney General of the state is saying they clearly defected. In fact, Mr. Judge, sir, your lordship, you don't even have the jurisdiction to preside over this case.
Particularly when there is documentary evidence to prove their defection, and the lawmakers themselves have not denied that they have defected.
So it's a lot of things. That's why we call it the theater of the absurd when it comes to Rivers politics. But hey, Alabi Ayodiji says the only people that can determine if the lawmakers have decamped are their respective ward chairmen. They have to provide their letters of resignation from the party. Okay.
All right.
Next one.
We'll think about, let's chew on that one, Jeffrey. This one is from Adegbola Oladeshemola, who says, I'm not surprised by the judgment. I said it. The camping is not by I no go agree, or by television. It's by being a card-carrying member of another party. This case, Otilo, that's to say, another way of saying... in our local parlance. It's over and done with, right?
Yeah, so the Attorney General is also arguing. Let's read your thought. Letter of Blossom says, they resigned from the PDP by themselves based on the video and oral pronouncement by them. So whether this is admissible and justiciable is a different kettle of fish. The lawyers will tell us that. And the law now recognizes and admits electronic evidences. So it doesn't matter whether they went to APC, YPP, LP, or any other party for that matter.
Okay.
All right, we need the lawyers.
So just in the future, when a politician says, I have defected by themselves, don't believe them unless they show you their new ID
So the big
card.
Argument is that when they were...
political party ID card.
Another argument is that when they were defending their defection in the Federal High Court, that their seats should not be declared vacant, what did they use to present as members of the new party? That's another conversation.
Absolutely.
Familiar spirit, Bukola.
That's the one I have next. And they say, okay, unless there is a resignation letter to the party which authenticates the defection, everything is just audio. They can defend it. I believe he's trying to say they can't defend it in court. This judgment has put Sim in a terrible position.
Okay.
But it's been a theater of some illegality in the last couple of weeks. The question is, will the state government comply by this court judgment by abiding by whatever resolutions that the State Assembly led by Martin Amewule propose or present? Jeffrey?
Well, let's see how it plays out. All of this, we've not even talked about issue of concurrent jury. Well, let's not go there. Benin Republic clips Super Eagles wings, defeat Nigeria for the first time. So that's a big conversation. Okay, no. Like, before we go to this issue, I think I want to really talk about the Super Eagles thing. So my head is just going there straight. But before we go there, let's talk about the protest in Ondo. EFCC had raided, I think, a club or so, and the young people were angry. So those are the young people, angry. EFCC raiding, I think, a club, arresting about 127 of them. EFCC has responded as to why they did it, but the young people are not taking it. They are protesting. So those are them. Those are the young people marching on the streets of Akure.
So we see them there, dissatisfied.
So at the end of the day, Bukola, they say stop EFCC, oh boy, this is stop EFCC brutality protest in Akure. So what made this trend beyond all is the fact that some people on social media are saying there are bigger fish to fry. Why always whoever the EFCC is going after?
Well, the truth of the matter is that if the EFCC is truly trying to fight internet fraud in Akure, they must do it, in a lawful manner, in line with the rule of law. There is a huge concern about youths, without legitimate forms of employment who, lodge permanently in hotels. But when it is done not in line with the rule of law, in a manner that offends or that abuses the fundamental human rights of young people, they will definitely come out and protest.
So at the end of the day, the youths were shouting. What about the issues of the Kogi State former governor, or the other states, that what was the EFCC doing rather than chasing after all of us? Well, Adeneye Sukomi says, my own point is just that not all of them might be fraudsters. Some people attend the party to Benusi, is that where you come? I don't know what that means. And especially when you get money, when you get money, go share flex. That's allow me to enjoy myself if I don't have so much money. If really EFCC have started the investigation by now, some people would have been released. by now.
And this one is from Shegun Adetula, who says, as much as I detest the style the EFCC adopts, I believe, to break into clubs and people's houses, the level of internet fraud is alarming and ridiculous. If they search the youths in this protest, 80% of them will be found wanting of internet fraud. Adetula says it's a fact.
Okay, so let's get straight to sports. Now, 3 things are trending in sports. I don't know which to start with. There's the issue of when they went to play in Cote d'Ivoire yesterday, rather than sing Nigeria We Hail Thee, they played Arizo Come Patriots and all of that. And there's also the people are calling now for whether to sack or retain Finidi George. There's also the issue of just the painful defeat of the Super Eagles for the first time by Benin Republic. That's why we're going to be joined on the program by our sports anchor and correspondent Yemi Adebayo. Joins us now as we begin to look at some of these things.
And Yemi is not smiling.
Yemi is not smiling. Yemi,
now you're smiling.
Yemi, where do we start from? So the defeats, Super Eagles should sack Finidi or retain him, or the fact that they bungled our national anthem. Maybe you pick one.
There's a lot to unpack. The national anthem is the least of our problems.
Yeah.
The fact now is that our chances of qualifying for the 2026 World Cup is hanging in a balance. We probably need to win all our 6 remaining matches, which by the evidence of the matches played already, it's difficult to do. You lost to Benin Republic, couldn't be South Africa at home. You are dragging your feet against Lesotho and all of those issues. So it's a lot to unpack, and people are angry, rightly so. There are 2 things to take from a football game: the result and the performance. 2 things. Sometimes if the performance doesn't go the way you expect, maybe the result, then you flip over with the performance. But there was nothing to take from yesterday. The performance wasn't good, the result wasn't in our favor, and people are angry. But again, my personal opinion has always been, not because we lost. A lot of people would think, yes, he has come here to say all of these things because we lost. It's a reflection of a bigger problem, and what's happening in our polity, in our societies, creeping into sports. And it's been like that for a while because people are not held accountable. You didn't qualify for the last World Cup. One would expect that because you didn't qualify for the last World Cup, you will take this next campaign, this qualifying series seriously. And now it's hanging in a balance. You can't dump all the blame on Finidi George. There are questions about managerial acumen. It has to be said, but all the fault is not on Finidi George. But we should tamper things down. Can we still qualify? Yes. On the evidence of how we are playing, we may not.
Well, Yemi, 6 matches is quite a lot, and I don't even want to think about the possibilities in there. But can we look at the match objectively? I know you have said that, there was nothing based on performance, but the first 25 minutes of the match was said to be good, and in fact, we scored first. So sometimes they say football, there's chance, is this an element of like the Super Eagles not being lucky, particularly because it's the first time that Benin Republic is defeating us?
In 16 games. It has nothing to do with luck. Before we went to the Nations Cup, there was this lull in our football. We're struggling to beat teams. And when we got to the Nations Cup, the coach then, Jose Peseiro, found a way to lock things up. But the problems were there. We weren't creating chances, we weren't scoring, even though on paper we have, in Africa and even across the globe, we have the most lethal strike force. Players that countries would dream to have. But yet we can't score goals. So if you want to pick the problems, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. You would want to look at how the coach set up his team. One, you'll have to look at whether or not the players are committed. A lot of people raise the issue of what's going on with the national team, the chances of not qualifying, and you look at the time some of these players came to camp. This is coming to the fore. If we had won, maybe people would not start saying it, but they're also saying it. Issue of discipline, issue of whether these guys. I listened to you. I saw how passionate you were about the business there, and we always go back to that 94 set, how passionate they were, how people, even with blood stains on their jerseys, will still keep on playing. I remember
said in 2000 or so,
crying.
He had malaria at the stadium in
Morocco. Yes, he came from the hospital bed, and I don't think he was even built to play that day. And that was how patriotic some of those guys were. But Another thing, there's a disconnect. You have players who maybe their grandfather is a Nigerian and somehow have not stayed in Nigeria, don't understand what football means to some of us. And you lose a game, you're changing jerseys, handshakes, and all that. That annoys the average fan. You know, I come from the era where you lose a game, you can't eat. That's how. I'm not the guy playing. I'm just the guy watching. You know, you lose a game, you can, and you have players now. To them, it's just a game.
So going forward, what should we do? Because I don't know with what orientation Finidi, unfortunately, I don't know. It came at a very difficult time. Back to back, we've met our enemies. South Africa wanted, we beat them in Cote d'Ivoire. We denied them a few things, and they came and they held us to draw. Genedro has groused with us, and he got his pound of flesh yesterday. So we'll be meeting our enemies back to back. Now we're going forward. Everybody wants us out of that group. What do we do in 1 minute?
It's difficult to say. Everything in the Nigerian parlance now is hope, because it's out of our hands, really. You have to be honest. The next time we're playing is in March, maybe March next year. Maybe that time we allow us to do something. I won't support sacking the coach. I would say assist him, then make the players understand what is really at stake. The NFF shouldn't bungle this. We're already in panic mode. Don't make it worse. Let the players understand the magnitude of what's going on. Maybe that will help. It's not all doom and gloom. There's still another route, but it means we have to win all our remaining matches. Can it be done? Yes. With the way they're playing, no. So we have to strike that balance of the players giving us the kind of performance that will give you the confidence that they can win the next 6 matches.
Yemi Adebayo, sports anchor and correspondent, thank you so much for your insight as always. But before we let you go, let's we want to show you something that happened. Yes. Mm-hmm. So that's it. I mean, we're still living in the past, as at yesterday. The national anthem. Ben, I didn't get the memo. Unfortunately, they had to play the old national anthem. Well, this is the one that gives us nostalgia. As I said, in terms of anthem, people like my generation were anthem orphans right now. People like the president, they have a return. That nostalgia is for them. Nigeria will hail the younger children of ours. Our children will be celebrating with hail the we have lost out in the game, but that's what happened yesterday. If you didn't watch the match, they mistakenly played Arise or Compatriots instead of Nigeria We Hailed It.
And you know, sometimes when things get off to a wrong start, it has a way of trickling down and affecting everyone.
You didn't have to go there.
Who knows? But let's hope that, you know, as Yemi has said, there's hope, and we hope that the hope will be renewed and not ruined in the next 6 matches. Yemi, we'd like to thank you.
Quick, your thoughts on the anthem.
Okay.
The NFF have complained about this. I don't know if it has anything to do with the game, and the sports minister has summoned the NFF, so we'll see if they get something out of all of that.
All right, guys, that's it on this segment. We'll get to the big issues for the day. It's a big issue, by the way. Let's not make a mistake. It's a big issue. But let's continue our talking point with the rest of the show, which will shape conversation for the rest of the day. Join us again.
Well, quite a number of things to wrap our heads around. While football fans are probably still trying to recover from that heartbreak, there's a lot still playing out in Rivers State. And we're not even talking about the national politics yet. Rivers politics alone deserves episodes and episodes on its own. So today, we're taking a look at one of the latest developments regarding the political impasse in Rivers State, South Nigeria. A judgment from a court in the state yesterday essentially changed the dynamics of things. But how far? What does this mean? Let's get legal interpretation to this one. We're joined on the program by a legal practitioner from Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, virtually, Mr. Worry. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, my brother.
Well, you're a lawyer, so things like this maybe will not rattle you as much as it may rattle other people, because rather than seeing maybe the emotions and all of the undercurrents, you see the law. You see what the Constitution says. So help us understand at the basic level. We saw the Amawule group announcing they had defected from the PDP to the APC. We saw all of the usual, ceremony welcoming them. We saw how they have addressed themselves. We've seen how the APC speaks in their favor, saying our members, our lawmakers. But the court yesterday said, well, all of that announcing on TV and newspaper doesn't count. It is the membership register that really counts. Is this new to you? Does it change the outlook? How are you taking all of this in, particularly from the viewpoint of the law?
Okay. To begin with, you just said that you have seen on the screen the Amewule-led members of the River State House of Assembly declared to the fact that they now have decamped to the APC. Now, those were one of the issues that was submitted to the court and upon which the court gave judgment. Now, the claimants in that suit have sought a declaration from the court to say that the 27-member assembly led by Amewule, having decamped, or if you like, having defected from the PDP to the All Progressive Congress, are no longer members of the PDP and so have lost their seats. Now, let me sound this to you. Let me shock you. The PDP, on whose platform Amewule-led members of the assembly were elected, was also in court and said, by their records, Amewule and co and the rest members are still members of PDP. Now, what did the court say? The court said that the valid means to identify who are members of a political party is the presentation of the party register and or membership card. The claimants in that suit were not able to produce either the APC membership register or membership card containing the names of Amewule, bearing in mind that the PDP, who also is a party to that suit, have said Amewule and co are still our members. So it's one thing to make an allegation. It's the other thing to establish the allegation that you are making. You are the very one who had gone to court, who had approached the court for certain declarations. So the onus is on you, particularly when the defendant have denied their claims. So I totally agree with the court on that score.
Then, so let's break it down, because this will also spill over into another judgment from a court in Rivers State, asking them not to parade themselves as lawmakers, restricting them. Does that affect that in any way? Because the concern here is we don't want to start seeing conflicting court judgments again after what we saw previously, and then the CJN had to wade in. So does that imply, does that vitiate rather that previous ruling of the court in Port Harcourt as well?
Okay. I thank God you have been able to correct yourself, because initially we had to say that there was an initial judgment restraining Amewule and co from sitting and parading themselves as members of the River State House of Assembly. There was no such judgment. Instead, there was an interim and then an interpretive order. An order is different from judgment. Judgment is usually given on the merits after hearing the parties. So there was an interlocutory order made by Honorable Justice C.N. Wale of the River State High Court as against a judgment yesterday. Now, let me direct your mind to a very important aspect of this discourse. The Section 272, sub 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended versus the power on the Federal High Court, the power to determine membership of a state and tenure and all of those manner of things on the Federal High Court and not the State High Court. The import of what that very section is that ab initio, the State High Court, particularly Honorable Justice C.N. Wiley, did not have jurisdiction to even entertain that suit, let alone making the order that he made. Of course, that order, I'm sure you know, is subject of an appeal.
Mr. Warri, if I may butt in here, so
yes,
does Justice Bassam's court have the jurisdiction in this case? It's a state high court. When they defected, and according to the law, defection has to be because there's a division according to 1091G as is stated in the Constitution, and by precedence of adjudication based on cases that have been established, it has to be at the national level. They cited a controversial position for their defection as now is a debatable conversation. First question, does the judge, Bassam himself, have the jurisdiction to entertain this particular case?
Okay, straight on. In my candid opinion, and based on the constitutional provision, section 272 sub 3, Honorable Justice Okobile Bassam, inclusive any other court of the Rivers State High Court, do not have jurisdiction to entertain, including the case of yesterday. That is my opinion. No wonder the judge was quick in his judgment to point out, even though those issues were never canvassed, the judge, so moto, on his own notes, noted it to say, based on our laws, including the constitutional provision, I do not have jurisdiction. In any event, just in the unlikely event that I am wrong, he proceeded to determine the substantive suits, particularly in circumstances where neither of the parties canvassed the issue of jurisdiction. And if you ask me, the court again was also right. You will recall, as far back as 1983, the Supreme Court of Nigeria in Adegoke Motors and Adesina was quick to express the fact that, look, these courts are manned by human beings and they are prone to making mistakes. That's why the Supreme Court in that case that I just cited, stated, look, we are not final because we are infallible. But we are infallible because we are the final court of the land. The import of this statement is that all courts are prone to making mistakes. That's why the court, even though he did it so much, look, I do not think I have jurisdiction. Just in event that I am mistaken, let me proceed to the issues that were submitted by the parties to the court. That was what happened yesterday.
Everyone would have thought that the Honorable Justice maybe would have struck out the case, even if it wasn't canvassed in terms of jurisdiction, given the fact that adjudication of that particular substantive issue should have been at the Federal High Court. Don't you think so?
No, the court will not strike out the case because the court does not have the power to raise an issue so moto. If a court does raise an issue so moto, it's incumbent on the court to call upon the parties so moto. The parties never canvassed the issue of locus standi and abuse of process. It was the court, because the law is in the bosom of the court. It was the court who so moto raised it in the course of judgment. So there was no, so the court wouldn't have struck out or dismissed, properly so called, the suit at that time. Because if the court proceeds to strike out, I'm using your words, because the proper thing is to dismiss. If the court proceeded so much to dismiss the suit based on an issue that were never canvassed by any of the parties, that is an applicable grant.
Well, still difficult to take in, particularly if the court is in full recognizance of the fact that the matter is not within its jurisdiction, but still it goes ahead to hear it. But let's look at another aspect of this, which is, what is often said, within the legal circles, that a court would only consider what is brought before it. And what the claimants here, that would be Amadi, Mr. Hyacinth Amadi and Datoye, that the court should declare the seats of the lawmakers vacant, having publicly defected and announced their defection. But rather, the court ruled on membership and not on defection, what the claimants were seeking. I wonder if this is some form of contradiction to you, and I'd like you to speak to it.
I do not think there is any contradiction. First, you can't talk about defection without talking about membership. Because when you are going to talk about defection, you are saying that, look, you have left the party that sponsored you to the position that you are as a lawmaker, to a new party. That is membership. And of course, you are going to prove that. You are going to prove that, like the court has rightly stated. You will show membership. First of all, you will show that they have written to their former party, so to speak. And then you have their name in the register of members, or perhaps the membership card. So you could not divorce membership from defection. You cannot. There's no how you will talk about defection that you will not talk about membership of an old party and the new party. There's no how.
Okay.
Are you not defecting from your membership of a particular party to a new party? So membership is intertwined with defection. You are defecting from your membership of a political party to a new political party. So the court couldn't have said, because the grounds upon which they were saying that Amewule and co had lost their seats is that they said they had left the PDP, who sponsored them, to a new party. And of course, the burden was squarely on them, which they failed to establish.
All right, that's difficult to contest. But isn't it interesting that the PDP sought to be joined in this suit, knowing full well that those lawmakers had announced their defection to the PDP, to the APC rather? So what would be the interest of the PDP that has sought to be joined in this matter?
Yes, I think the interest of the PDP in that matter is that Amewule and co were elected on their platform. And they had gone to court to say, by our record, we have not lost Amewule and co as members. Of course, every party would want to swell its membership. PDP would not be happy to lose 27 lawmakers. That is their interest. That's why they have come to court to say, we have not lost them. They are still our member.
Okay, so
that's their interest.
So maybe we'll go back to the beginning, or before the beginning. You said that the judge himself said, well, I don't have jurisdiction over this. So that's a foundation for all of this, and you have agreed as well. So are we not just raising dust over nothing? How justiciable is this anyway? Does it really change the optics of things? Because in law, they say you cannot build something on nothing. So the judge had said at the heart of this, I do not have jurisdiction. So is this justiciable? Is this a judgment that changes the optics of anything? Since the judge says, I do not have jurisdiction. It's just a suo motu pronouncement, as you said.
Again, let me restate what I said earlier. I had said here that the parties never canvassed the issue of the competence of that court to hear the matter. And so the matter proceeded to hearing and up until judgment. But while delivering its judgment, the court, suo motu, said, look, I do not think I have jurisdiction to entertain, but in the unlikely event that I'm wrong, let me dwell on the substantive issues that were submitted before me, and then proceeded to give. What did the court say? The court said, look, based on the evidence before me, Amehule and co. are still members of the, particularly so.
No, my
when
question,
the PDP.
I know you've raised this point, but just so that we don't, because there's a lot happening already, and I imagine as a legal practitioner, as a resident, as someone who has the love of rivers at heart, you'd want all of this back and forth to be resolved for the good of the people of Rivers State. So as much as possible, we're trying to ensure that we calm the nerves and coast towards a resolution. So does this really change anything? Does it mean they're still members of the Rivers State House of Assembly? Exactly, speak to us clearly on that. Does that change anything materially?
Now, before
yesterday... Is that a yes or a no? Does it change anything materially, Mr. Worry?
I think it does. It does, because after the interlocutory order by TN Wali, which is subject of an appeal, the Amehule and co., the River State House of Assembly, have not sat to make laws for the good governance of River State. But with the judgment of yesterday, the course is clear for them to continue as always to make laws for the state. So that is where we are.
Mr. Worry, it's a bit concerning as to how politics and jurisprudence are having some kind of interplay, and it's a bit confusing for some of us who are laymen. So one is wondering, at the heat of this very feud between all of the parties, as far as this is concerned, when the Amehule-led group were really fighting hard to make sure that nobody declares their seat vacant at the Federal High Court. They went to Abuja. Nobody incapacitates them to do their work as lawmakers for the fact that they have defected. What did they present to the court as evidence that they've moved to another party? Or they never presented that, or it was just verbal statement that was admissible and justiciable? What exactly did they present? I want to think that if I come to a judge and said, they want to declare my seat vacant because I left this party to this party, I would expect that the justice system would demand that I show that I've moved from party A to party B. Help me out here.
Now, when we were about to start, you had said that, look, we have seen on television where Amehule and co had declared. I also saw when this, I think it was on the 11th of December, yes, 2023. December 2023. They said that, look, we are leaving the APC to the PDP to the, these are factual now. I'm not talking law, I'm talking facts. On account of the fact that there is division in the PDP, they even cited, because I saw them showing a court process, to say, look, there is a contest between the national, as to who is the national secretary. And of course, you know that the secretary of any organization is, so to speak, the live wire. And that what was happening at the time made it impracticable, impossible for the party to function very well. Those were their claims. Now, those issues have not been determined, like you rightly pointed. Those are subject of litigation. But I know that Justice Donatis Okorowo of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja Division have made a restraining order to the effect that nobody in whatever guise should stop them or disturb the River State House of Assembly led by Amehule from performing its function. That is the state up until, even in the face of that pending order, that Honorable Justice C.N. Wiley of the River State High Court gave a restraining order, stopping them from performing their legitimate and constitutional duties of making laws for the good governance of River State. You
know, sir, the intendment of this ruling that you just cited, which is not stopping the Martin Amehule-led State Assembly from performing its function, is the exact reason I asked earlier what the interest of the PDP would be in being joined in the suit, and you say that the PDP does not want to lose their members, but the leader of the party in the state is the governor. And if we refer yet again to the events leading us here, where the governor perceived the State Assembly to be working against its interests. So the question would be, if the PDP doesn't want to lose these members, isn't it yet another contradiction? And what would be the future of Rivers politics going forward? Do you see the governor obeying this court order by not interfering in the activities of legislation of the Martin Amewule-led State Assembly?
Well, I see the governor obeying the orders of courts. I say so because the office of the governor is a creation of the law. That's number one. Number two, his election was validated by the courts. So if those who, the petitioners in the election petition, after the judgment, had obeyed the court order, I do not see any reason why the governor, whose office is a creation of the law, would not obey the judgment of a court. I do not see any reason why. But if he does so, of course, I don't know how to put it, but I don't see him not obeying the judgment of the court. I do not see him.
You know, I do hope that at the end of all of this, if we ever get to the end, I think that's a desire, everybody would all look back at the role that they played across board, and maybe there'll be some truth-telling and say, did I really do things right or not? Was I on the side of, the law or against it? Speaking of that, so there's freedom of association, right? And I'd like you to speak to this as a lawyer as well. So I say that I do not want to belong to your association anymore. Freedom of association. So I've said I do not want to belong to it. So isn't that violating my own fundamental right if you were to tell me that you have to be a part of that association? In fact, let's put this in context. Let's go back to December the 11th and listen to Mr. Martin Amewule announcing the defection. Then we'll come back to speak to that question.
Of this 10th Assembly, distinguished colleagues, these leaders are personally written by the 27 members individually and sent to me in line with Section 101 of the 1999 Constitution as authored. Distinguished colleagues, I will begin by reading the data written by the Right Honorable Barrister Dundee Mao, the Deputy Speaker of this House. It reads, the Right Honorable Martin Chika Amewule, DSSRS, Speaker, Rivers State Assembly, Moscow, Port, Mr. Speaker, defection to the All Progressive Congress, APC. I write to bring to your attention my decision to leave the People's Democratic Party, PDP. This decision to leave the PDP is necessitated by the division in the People's Democratic Party, of which I was elected to this House. In particular, the tussle around who the National Secretary of the PDP is.
So those were the reasons adduced, and Jeffrey had referenced that. So speak to that. Isn't that a violation of his fundamental rights to freedom of association by saying, no, you must be in that association?
I think otherwise. First, Martin Amewule and co have the right to say, I want to associate with anybody, any group, any association or organization, such as the All Progressives Congress. The PDP is not saying that they do not have such rights. What the PDP is saying, that they have not followed the formality to express their right of freedom of association. PDP has said, by our record, we do not have any record showing that Martins and co have led invariably. What they are saying is that Martins and co did not communicate any letter to that effect they don't have such record. It's not to say.
Mr. Worry, if I heard him clearly, because we've been following this thing from the word go.
Yes.
So we understand, you understand the law, but we are following the politics here. He clearly stated that letters were written to him by all of the members, which is the premise on which is reading the position of all of the members. I'm curious because the senior advocate of Nigeria, who is the Attorney General of the state, is now saying, we have evidence. What we saw just now, which we played back, which we just played, which was from December 11, is this admissible in court?
Obviously, but that's not the point. I think you have missed the point.
Okay, let's get the point then.
Because I listened to the Honorable Amewule said the letters addressed to him and not to PDP, because he raised the issue of freedom of association. And I said the PDP is not saying that they do not have a right to move or to go to any other party. After all, the Constitution is clear, Section 109 of the 1999 Constitution is clear on that. But they are saying that, look, there are procedures, there are formalities. By the record of PDP, not the record of Martins Amewule, PDP, on whose platform they were elected, we don't have such evidence. That's what the PDP says.
Mr. Worry, it's amazing how politicians try to play around the fine lines of the law. It's just amazing to see. It took us 6 months to realize in the books that people who defected haven't defected. Help us make sense of that situation as we close.
There's this aphorism, what is what doing is what doing well. Maybe they had intended, as expressed on the video that you just played, to go to, cross over to the All Progressive Congress. But the question is, have they done it in line? Was it done properly? Of course, the PDP has been quick to supply the answer to that question, to say, no, by our record, we did not have any such letter suggesting or to the that Amewule and Co., who are our member, who still retains our membership card, have not left us. No wonder Honorable Justice Okoble Basan was speak. And I had said earlier, I agree with him. Why did the plaintiff not present register of members of the All Progressive Congress or membership card, right, where you will find the names of Amewule and Co.? So that is the point. Nobody is saying that anybody should not defect. But when you are going to do it fairly so well.
Okay, maybe this is opening a new jurisprudence. But as I said, at the end of the day...
the law grows every day. The law is and has. It grows every day.
Mr. Warren, we say that when we want to say it, and then another time to say, well, it's been said.
In those earlier cases that...
I understand, Mr. Warren, absolutely. Absolutely.
The facts, no, the parties, the political parties never came to say, look, these people are still our members.
Okay.
So that's the difference with the earlier cases that we used to.
Well, Mr. Warren, we'd like to thank you so much. By the way, it's important to also get the other side of this. We had reached out, and hopefully in the coming days we'll hear from the governor's side and the state government side as well as to their interpretation. But I'd like to thank you so much for your insights on this one. Very interesting times we're in, but more importantly, we wish the people of Rivers State the very best. Mr. Warri, legal practitioner, thank you for your time on the program.
A pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So we'll get that other side to the conversation as soon as they're ready. But we'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll turn our attention to a very interesting angle of a conversation. It concerns surrogacy, the laws behind it, or the laws that are not behind it, and as to how to walk around this murky waters, it will seem. So that's something you don't want to miss. Stay with us.
Welcome back. So now it's time to turn our attention to another subject matter, an entire departure from politics. Now, speaking from experience, the journey to motherhood, even when it is not aided, is an all-encompassing and consuming one. And then when a mother now has to resort to a process of assisted reproductive health, then it becomes twice the emotional journey. So how do we guide vulnerable, expectant mothers through the process of surrogacy? Joining us to have this conversation, we have Mrs. Olaronke Thaddeus. She's the founder, Meet Surrogate Mothers Agency, Lagos. We also have joining us Dr. Joel Akonde, fertility specialist, medico-legal consultant. That's a new one. CEO of the Fertility and Gynecology Center. They are here with us in our Lagos studios. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lady and gentleman.
Thank you.
So ladies first, naturally. Mrs. Thaddeus, I'd like you to, since you're the one that comes in contact with this intending mothers regularly, help us appreciate that mental journey, what the emotions that these women go through, the challenges of infertility that make them resort to surrogacy, before we begin to look at all those regulations and the knowledge that they need to get before they embrace that option.
Okay. Surrogacy, I think I should start by defining what surrogacy is. Surrogacy is when another woman helps you to carry your pregnancy. Truly, there are medical issues that could arise for a woman to decide to embark on using a surrogate mother to have a baby. First on the list is if a woman has had her womb removed, maybe due to one reason or the other, there is no womb again, and she desires to have more children, or she has not even had any, then she will need to consider using a surrogate mother. Also, there are women that have they have done series of fibroid surgeries that has caused them to have scars on the lining of their uterus. This would make implantation or getting pregnant very difficult. So this set of women, usually would also think about exploring surrogacy as an option. There are also other women, they've had series of miscarriages, they're just tired of, trying again. These usually have emotional tolls on them, So this set of women also, sometimes you find them considering using a surrogate mother. Then some women also have conditions that pregnancy could complicate, like maybe cancer. Some are about to undergo chemo. Some already have their egg freezed somewhere, and this set of women would want to use a surrogate mother so that pregnancy would not further complicate their medical issues. There are a lot of women that are also they have kidney issues. They are also on this same condition or platform to use a surrogate mother to have their babies. Some other women are very old, and by the law, the fertility law, usually I think 52 once you're 52 and above, yeah, and you still want to have your baby, then you might need to consider using a surrogate mother.
So let me come to you, Doctor, on this particular. In addition to what she said, does things like phobia for pregnancy, because there are people that are just afraid of pregnancy because maybe somebody died in the process, that phobia eats them up on one hand, and then just the aesthetic reasons, like they don't want to alter their body shape. Does it also follow through when it comes to the issue of surrogacy? Is this something that doctors consider and say is a valid reason for you to, go through this process?
Thank you for having us this morning on this program. The age limit, let me address that. Of course, it's not set in concrete that it has to be 52. We're still battling with, which I hope we'll come to later on, with what is the limit here in natural world. And in law, what are we supposed to do? 52 has been an arbitrary figure, which the Fertility Society in Nigeria is trying to also make sure that it's a safe limit for women to get pregnant or to have their embryos transferred to them. There are people who have unfortunately suffered incredibly from pregnancy-related disorders and adversities, and they may not necessarily want to go through another pregnancy. But that is not to say, in my experience, and especially in our settings here, in our cultural settings, a lot of women, there are two issues here. A lot of women will want first to want to have a baby of their own, but in addition, they want to be seen to be pregnant, and that, well, God has removed this shame from me, the world, look at me, I'm pregnant, and I'm capable of being pregnant. So those are conflicts, even in the presence of medical difficulties, that, you cannot possibly carry this pregnancy. They will push, and they do want to push us to the limit in which I will try. So there are some, on one hand, who may be afraid, but that is not very common. A lot of women want to be pregnant and want to be seen to be pregnant.
Okay, I will add.
Right, you can go ahead. Yeah, you can add to that.
Getting pregnant, doctor will say you have to be physically and emotionally ready to get pregnant. If someone, for instance, has identified herself and she thinks she's not psychologically ready to carry pregnancy, that could endanger her or the pregnancy in the process. I won't say no to that kind of person. To carry pregnancy, you need to be psychologically and physically healthy and ready.
So you've talked about a lot of things, but I think one of the major reasons is infertility, and then the others come in naturally, the medical conditions, the age, and the rest. But let's now bring it to Nigeria, because we have our culture that defines a lot of things. We have our religion that defines a lot of things. And yes, absolutely, it's what makes us, our culture and religion. That's who we are. It's ingrained in us. So you have been in this practice for decades. It's interesting. You're not just a doctor, you're a lawyer. I understand you even did some architecture.
Yes, that's right.
There you go. Maybe we'll talk about the architectural makeup of this later. But in the context of Nigeria, just how prevalent is, or how do people view surrogacy and, all of the things attached to it? Some see it as baby factory, for example. They see surrogacy as just glorified baby factory. I don't know if you've come across that. But I'd like you to speak to the cultural context we're in Nigeria, just how, we'll talk about the laws, as we said, but how accepted, what do people view it as, and what should people see it as? Really, I'll start with you, so then come to
just a little bit of correction. I don't practice law. I read law, but I'm not into law practice. Just to make that comment. Now, we have to see the intensity of infertility damage, the injuries psychologically, the shame, and the pain, especially for women. It is a very burdensome experience, and women especially goes about wanting to cure, wanting to have that body removed from their shoulders. In my experience, I've been practicing medicine now plus 30 years, and I have seen that they will go anywhere, they will do anything, even when the men have said, no, you are bothering me, I don't want any more. They will still persist, they will persevere, they are determined to see it through. Now, so we have to give it to the women and, appreciate their endurance. Now, the cultural element is the fact that there are a lot of conflicts, in the sense that a lot of religions, particularly across the world and in particular Nigeria, frowns at surrogacies. I will not mention names of any particular region, but nevertheless, they look at surrogacy as an evil thing. It's not good, you should not do it. But you have to look as a clinician at the balance of the need of individuals, of these women, and wanting to have balance in their families that fulfill their aspirations to be a woman, to be able to fulfill their biological needs. So if we set that apart, you have a situation whereby surrogacy might be not allowed in religion, but culturally, at the subliminal level, a lot of people have come to accept that it's become part of our life now, that if you want to get fulfilled, you have got to go through those roads. We have seen the reasons, my colleague had enumerated in details, the reasons why these things happen. And we have to culturally, and indeed had been culturally accepted, even within the religious, all this, when it comes to clinical settings, this religion is set aside.
Pardon me, I just realized that, you are not just doing this, you are frontal about it. I don't know if people see you as baby factory per se.
No.
How do people approach it? Because this is a new jurisprudence, if I can say. It's a new area, particularly here in Nigeria. It's not something you hear a lot. So what kind of reactions you get from people, really? Because surrogate, people are like, no, I don't want to go there, but you are going there.
Yeah, I've been in the surrogacy industry for over a decade now.
Wow.
And initially the reception was bad, but presently as I'm speaking to you, we have parents all over the world coming to explore the option of surrogacy. And I must tell you that it is not being considered as baby factory. There is a whole lot, in fact, you cannot even, you should not even compare it to baby factory. Baby factory is evil. Stealing of babies, of, somebody's daughter, locking them up. This has nothing to do with surrogacy. Surrogacy is practiced ethically and medically. The eggs of the intending parents and the sperm of the intending father, have fertilized in the IVF lab, and the IVF doctors, they are experts in this field, So the said embryos are generated, and these embryos are transferred into the surrogate mothers. The surrogate mothers, they are not genetically related to the baby she's carrying. We are not also infringing the rights of the surrogate mother, because she's free to do whatever she wants to do. The fact that she's carrying pregnancy doesn't mean that her life is on the, is on the, is static for that 9 months period. She can do whatever she wants to do. She is a right, okay? So surrogacy should not be linked to baby factory. They are two different things entirely. And I am a proud advocate of surrogacy, and people don't view me as someone practicing something evil. I've been applauded on this. I've been encouraged. I receive prayers on a daily basis from parents that, my agencies have blessed.
A quick comment on the issue of baby factory. It is very much a shame, really, that it is happening in Nigeria. I've never seen anywhere in the world that this kind of thing is permitted, that you are a genetically different baby, or somebody who you don't even know is giving it to you, and you claim to have been pregnant all over these 9 months, and it can only happen in a place where there's so much lawlessness.
So now that we've dealt with the cultural issues and relating perceptions, perhaps we should look at the legal issues as well. I know that you're saying that it's an option that mothers have to resort to, and you're advocates for it. But what about lawyers who frown at the practice of surrogacy itself in Nigeria, and they quote Section 30? And not all of the sections could seem that, okay, it's just an interpretation, not necessarily an absolute. But perhaps if I could read from it, they say no person shall buy, sell, hire, let on hire, dispose of, or obtain possession of, or otherwise deal in a child. So within the context of surrogacy, it's a woman that is assisting to help to carry. So maybe they're looking at that portion of deal in a child. Now, as practitioners in that space, how do you what disposition do you present to, the legal gray areas to the practice of surrogacy? I'll start with you, sir.
Okay, I see where you are coming from, Section 30 of the Child Act. If you look at it carefully, the Section 30 that you have read, but you didn't read it in full. If you look at the heading properly, it says deal, hire, sell, or whatever, for the purpose, there's a purpose, it ends with the purpose of money making or hawking, for that kind of environment. It did not say, it's not even a medical issue, it's even a social issue, a cultural issue that Section 30 is dealing with. It has nothing whatsoever to deal with medicine or surrogacy whatsoever. It has absolutely nothing. If you look at it from the end of Section 29 to the entire Section 30, it has nothing to do with surrogacy. It's the protection of children from exploitation.
All right, so let's talk about one element that, from experience, I would like you to speak to. I know you said they are not genetically connected, but how do you separate that bonding? Because this woman will carry the child for 9 months or whatever number of months and all of that, and maybe even birth the child and all of that. How do you manage that emotional attachment so that the person doesn't say, I've got a child somewhere?
Okay. A surrogate is a mother herself. Okay, so she has her own kids. She has given birth to her own children.
That's a prerequisite.
Yes.
You must have had children.
Yes.
Not a single person.
Not
somebody who has not given birth.
Not somebody that has not given birth before. Okay. Before you can be a surrogate mother, you would have, or you might have given birth to at least one child. Okay. So because it is always very important to ensure this. Like I normally say jokingly, you don't give what you don't have, okay? Because like you said, it might definitely have a psychological effect on them if they don't have their own kids and they're pregnant and, at the end of the day, no baby. Yeah. So we, at my agency, Meet Surrogate Mothers, they undergo a lot of psychological training and also encourage them. Even after birth, it does not end there. For 6 months, we still keep in touch. They still come around. We still talk to them, okay? Because trust me, it's not easy also for them. But I think our surrogate mothers now, they've grown to that point where they also know and they appreciate the process, that they are just helping another woman, another woman's house. Okay, so their minds are already prepared for this. So,
can I also answer the question that the way it is that the blood of the mother, even though it supplies the food, the nutrients, the air, the oxygen that the baby will need, genetically they are not related. They are distinct individuals. The only thing that the mother is doing is to, one, house the baby, the fetus, and two, nourish the baby until maturity to give birth. They have no relation. If you do the DNA, they have no relationship whatsoever.
Pardon me, I'd like to come from the mother's perspective here, and I'm glad that you're a mother as well. Even though you said that they're not genetically related, there's also a very strong issue of the bond between the carrier, that's the surrogate mother, and the child. And that brings us to the issue of those lack of defined laws and regulations, in that space. What do you do, to prevent issues arising in the future of, surrogate moms coming to lay claims to children? What are the contractual agreements that are signed to protect the identity and the stability of the family of the intending mother who's using a surrogate mom? Perhaps you'd like to read.
Okay. My agency, for instance, practiced anonymous surrogacy, meaning that the surrogate mother and the intending parents do not know each other. So the agency stands in between both of them. So that way, the intending parents feels very safe doing surrogacy, and she knows that after birth, nobody's coming back to come and say, or come and extort money, or so it's just safer that way. And I'm also an advocate of anonymous surrogacy, since there is no legal framework to surrogacy at the moment. Okay, so we do anonymously, and that way,
are there contracts signed?
Yes, there are contracts signed in the beginning of the program.
So there's a legal claimant, right? The legal claimant is the parent.
Well, yes, quite often where these challenges come from is the fact that just like the emotional thing you have mentioned, that you've carried this baby for 9 months, it becomes part of you. There are procedures, clinical steps that we take that they don't come in contact with each other immediately after the birth. Because if you allow the woman to breastfeed, to hug, to hold the baby, you are going to establish emotional bond. Now, on the other hand, in relation to being blackmailed, true, we've had the experiences in which, just like my colleague here said, the important is that you make sure that these parties, the surrogate, do not often relate. However, it has to be said that there are families that, in which case, the sister can be a surrogate to the junior or to the senior, even the mother. Personally, I've not had that in Nigeria, but across the world, it is possible that a sister, a mother, can carry for the daughter. It is still a surrogacy. Now, the emotional issue is kept within the family, but when there are distances between the two parties, it is important that the relationship is minimized as much as possible.
On a final note, so this, at the heart of it, there's IVF involved,
yes,
right, and then there's the surrogacy involved, so like your partners in progress. Does it cost as much as maybe 10 million naira to achieve this, 15 million? Because this will take 9 months. I mean, people will even ask, what happens to the child once the child is born? The mother would obviously need to breastfeed the child for a certain period, or not, depending again on the contractual agreement. So as maybe a round figure or a target, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million? It's obviously not a cheap.
It's not a cheap process. I mean, raising human beings is not cheap in any way or manner. However, I think 10 million is pretty on the higher side. That's pretty
for the whole process, the IVF and the surrogacy.
Yes, it's much on the higher side.
Do you agree?
I don't agree, because I would not even like to put a fee to it. Surrogacy is priceless, if you ask me. You cannot entirely compensate a surrogate mother. For instance, my contract states that you need to take care of the surrogate mother if there is any medical needs. I've had a surrogate mother that gave birth and landed in ICU. So just imagine if I have penned it and say, oh, it's less than, no.
Okay, so it's a case-by-case basis.
It's a case-by-case.
But do you have to do afterwards? Is there still some sort of payment afterwards? Because there's
like royalty?
Well, maybe
no,
in some sense.
No. It's a contract.
So once 9 months is over,
yeah,
they hand over the baby. Doesn't need to breastfeed.
Interestingly, the intending mom can breastfeed. Forget that she uses surrogate mother.
There's reduced lactation for the intending mom.
Yes.
Okay. I know that you say you don't put a price to it, but 5 million?
No, please.
I think the thing is, I think the thing is, across the various parts of Nigeria, the fees varies. I don't want to call it fees. The word is compensation. The law is very clear when it comes to the medical practitioners. The section 23 of our code of conduct did say that we have to rectify, we have to resolve some of the issues that may arise during the surrogacy period.
And that tells us that this is by no means the end of the conversation. There are definitely areas that we didn't touch. Yeah. I would like to thank you very much for your time on the program. We've been talking with Mrs. Olarunke Thaddeus, founder, Meet Surrogate Mothers Association. And we've also been talking with Dr. Joel Akonde, fertility specialist, medico-legal consultant, CEO, and the Fertility and Gynecology Center, Lagos Studio.
Thank
you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time on the program.
Thank you for having us.
Right.
And up next on the program, we'll switch, of course, to the softer side of things as we come up close with the culture comedy ambassador, Cruise with Joe. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
It's His real name, Joseph Obasi, and of course we call him Cruz with Joe. He's right here with us in Lagos, Nigeria, all the way from, they say from the east, right?
Yes.
I like to posit it like that. The reason is because of the beauty of social media, democratizing opportunity, and now you're here to have this conversation with us. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you so much for having me.
We've seen what you can do and what you're doing. The curiosity here is, why did you choose this option?
Okay, so I can say I chose that line. I think it's something that busted out of mistake, because I was just a food vendor. I was just a food vendor who was basically trying to create content, because these days, if you notice, food vendors are going out of their way. Those who have like content creation ability, they go out of their way to entertain their customers. So I used to be like that until one of my content went as far as, making it to all the blogs. And then my customers also encouraged me to create like a separate page where I can put all of that so it does not interfere with my food content. So I've been trying to keep up basically since that time till now.
Amazing.
Brilliant. So it's quite interesting. You started off with food.
Yeah, I'm still there, though.
I know, I'm going to get there. And then you climbed up the ladder, or at least you ventured into another sphere. So it looks like your followership for content regarding comedy and culture is even bigger than your followership for food.
Exactly.
You also do radio.
Yes.
If I'm correct. You're also like a model of sorts. At least we can see from the outfit you're wearing. you represent brands. You've done brand activations and the rest. I'm just trying to paint the picture of what can happen when people really look deep down and tap into their skills. I was going to start by saying Igbo Queen. I served in Ebonyi State, and one of the things that still hurts today is the fact that I didn't learn the language well. So help us understand how using your culture, your language to present comedy, how it became a game changer for you, really.
Okay, so like I told you, it was not pre-planned. It's something that busted out, and the more I tried to do it, the more I tried to hold on to it, the more I see how deep, it is. And I figured that some contents are funny. I don't know if it's something unique to me, but then these contents are really funny if you understand Igbo dialect. There's something about the dialect, there's something about your language that you cannot, necessarily... a joke, let me put it this way, a joke in Igbo or a joke in Yoruba or a joke in Hausa, when you translate it, it's no longer a joke. It might not be funny anymore. So it takes someone who understands Igbo dialect or the Igbo language to enjoy the joke. Then when you have like a lot of people coming under the comment section to say, oh my God, this guy, you're so crazy, you just have to continue, because there's a word there, there is a life there, so you just have to continue.
So we'll talk about the culture aspect, but I see that you talk about a myriad of things on your platform, from relationships to so many things, so to speak. So help us understand how you view situations and how you translate them into comedy and the content that you post.
Okay, so there are some things that will happen and I choose to address them, but I go through the comedy route. Okay, now these days people get triggered easily, especially when you address their situations. They get triggered easily, and before you know it, they're already screaming cyber bullying, cyber this, cyber that. So, but then you also believe that that thing is very funny. It's something that, as social media citizens, you can't just sweep it under the carpet. So we just go through the comedy route, just balance it a little bit, but then still pass your message.
So do you get like some backlash? Because I see that you're trying to be around the fine line of...
no,
comedy can be used to excuse a lot of things.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But then the idea is not to be on the fine line. The idea is not to do things that I would term unnecessary. There are some things you don't have to do. Before you do something, you want to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Do you have to do it? Do you understand it? For instance, why do you have to come online and then dissect someone's real life situation and give it like a serious look, give it like a serious approach? Why are you doing that? So how about you just go through the comedy route if you must do that, like make it lighter, make the situation a lighter one, and that's what I do.
You still teach us, you give us like Igbo language starter pack. Some of the things you need to learn, the words you must know if you want to learn the Igbo language. You'll get to that.
Not cuss words.
Just the everyday words that we can use. But what is that thing, before we get there, what are some of the things, misconceptions? And I think it's something you try to address in your, I'm an Igbo content creator and people think I'm this. But what are the wider misconceptions people, or you've seen people express about the Igbo culture, the Igbo people, and you're like, that's not us, obviously, and you maybe are trying to dispel some of those misconceptions or stereotypes? What are some of those things you've noticed?
Well, personally, I don't think I've noticed anything that has not already been in existence, like an idea or a notion, or I don't think there's anything new to me because I am now an Igbo content creator. No, I think these things have always been there, but I try to excuse myself sometimes because they are not things I can address. When you hear people say, oh, they're demolishing houses in Lagos, and that's because it's from Igbo person. That's you understand those kind of things. So, but then another thing is the fact that once you create content using your language, it sort of passes this message, but that's not the message actually. That's not the truth. It passes the message that you don't like other languages, or you just want to force your language on other people, especially when you don't subtitle, right? But we don't, we don't understand that sometimes this is someone's niche, right? I wish I can speak English and still sound funny. It's a wider reach for me. Do you understand? So, but the idea is not because I love the language so much, or I just came out from the shrine of my village and I just want to come and, preserve the culture. This is just a niche. It broke out and I'm trying to preserve it.
Absolutely.
So do you find it limiting that you're only able to be funny in Igbo language, and Igbo language is the medium that you can only use?
No, I don't find it. I don't think I am limited. When I started, I felt that way too because I wanted to collaborate with like a lot of people. At the time, I was really viral with my content. I was on blogs and I wanted to collaborate. It was an opportunity. I could enter any DM and they would answer me. A lot of people were also in my DM, but it was, at some point I felt that way, but I felt like, what if we are all doing English, doing comedy with English? Who is going to do this one? What if, I think there is really a place for someone who is creating content using the language, like someone, because there's always a place for culture. There's brands will look out for, best in this culture, best in this place. Who is the best person to sell this with? Do you understand it? You see breweries using a Yoruba figure to hold the drink. There is always a room. There's a peak for every level in life. So I feel like I'm not limited.
You're talking about brands, so let's talk money.
Okay,
I like that part. Because you're talking sustainability beyond just passion. How viable has it been for you?
Okay, it's been how do I put it now?
I didn't say tell me how much you charge.
Okay.
We will not ask. Don't worry.
So, I'll just say to God be the glory.
That's what they say at the end of Nollywood films, to God be the glory.
Oh my.
But it's been viable for you.
Yes, it has.
So food, brands, social media, monetization, all of that has been very good. It's been amazing. Trust me, it's been amazing. I've been growing. The thing about content creation is when you get into content creation bearing money or monetization in mind, you will just suffer. You will never understand passion. You will never have fun creating this content. So this is someone who already has a business that is doing well. You understand, and then I don't have my focus on. So
are you bothered by regulation and the possible call for paying taxes by content creators?
I can't use the word bothered. I can't say bothered. I mean, the whole essence for tax is if you're making money from the system, you should pay back the system. That's how I perceive it, right? But then again, you also need to, when we pay tax, the citizens who are paying tax are expecting something. We are still looking out for what we will gain from paying this tax. Do you understand? So when there's no balance, it becomes a problem. If there's a balance, why not? We'll pay the tax.
But you appear put together, and you're certainly not put together in your content. Is it because...
Because you're on lunch. Because you're here with us.
Okay, so here is the thing, right? That's just my niche, right? So I just have to do what I have to do. Well, this is me, sweet chill guy.
Teach us.
Let's go to that starter pack.
Okay. What are things I need to learn? So we'll pronounce it with you, and then we'll see if we're doing well.
Okay. Iripole.
Iripole.
Where did you come from?
I'm your brother now.
So Iripole is how are you, but that is not the general Igbo. We have like the general Igbo, and then we have the Owerri dialect. Even in Imo State, we have different dialects in Imo State. So Igbo is that vast. The Igbo land is...
There's Anambra too.
Very good. Even in Anambra, there is another dialect inside of Anambra. So Igbo is that vast. The reason why I stand out is because I am doing the Owerri dialect. Is very sweet.
So tell your people watching that you're on the morning brief in the Cruise with Joe.
So that's your camera.
That's your camera right there.
Where is it?
It's right there.
Okay, sorry. Let me do this. Someone has to say action.
Action.
Is your boy Joe Pondek wa mama okrepo gaga dudu plantain seeds. Okay. Plantain chips chineke awela mpompom na leko ebani no bo Channels TV ebani je mehe onyonyo akogara m wo show re wo kemba yo ala ya nonga ya gashiela gi.
Come on. Can we add the Bokoino part too?
Yes, we can.
So how do we go?
Bueno.
That's enough.
Joseph Mbasi, Cruise with Joe, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
You're doing a great work, and we're just here to support you as much as we can.
Thank you so much.
All right. Guys, that's it on this edition of the program. And of course, tomorrow is going to be a special one for us. It's Democracy Day. By the way, the federal government has declared tomorrow public holidays, June 12, as we mark 25 years of unbroken democracy. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga.
Don't forget to join us again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, Sunrise Daily is next. So for you that you have joined us and will join us, I say Dalu. Goodbye.